Motion to acknowledge certificate of posting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a special presentation that I will be asking Supervisor De La Cruz to present, and I will entertain a motion to approve that recognition presentation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Martha? Uh, 35 years? Wow. I have a personal tie to Martha. Actually, my mom does. My mom could always count on making sure that, you know, anything I do bad, she'll get back to me. And somehow, in the discussions with my mom and other members of the community and Martha, somehow Martha was always in part of the middle. And sure enough, the next day I get reaped by my mom on what am I doing, why am I voting this way. But Martha, I just want to thank you. Especially my family wants to thank you too. All my sisters and brothers want to thank you for all the great service you did to them when, at a time when we first came to Hollister, you were there helping us, my brothers and my sisters and my mom. Thank you very much. It was a service that we couldn't do without you at the time. And in fact, they are planning a potluck for her, and the one that's leading the charge is my mom.
Really?
So at least I can tell my mom, give her a call later on today and say, Mom, we just gave her a nice little plaque to Martha, and she'll be proud of me. So that's a good thing. Martha, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I want to congratulate you and recognize you for your service of over 35 years at the labor camp. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Martha, you're welcome to go up to the mic and say something if you'd like. We certainly welcome you to do that.
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone, and I just hope that I work to the best of my ability and try to help whoever I could and do the best I could do. So thank you, though. Thank you to San Benito County.
Well, thank you, and we
I will
really
miss
appreciate.
all the employees and my friends. Thank you.
Yes, we thank you for your 35 years of service. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Anybody in the public that would like to address the board on items that are not on the agenda? Do you have any speaker cards?
Speaker card for Mitch Matthews.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm a member of the Long-Term Care Commission appointed by the San Benito County as commission. And today we're here to formally ask to be part of a regular agenda item, perhaps quarterly is what we're asking to be part of. We're a group of professionals that meet monthly to review issues related to seniors in San Benito County and all of the things. We're made up of a group from the high cap members that help seniors understand Medicare rules, the ombudsman to help the residents of senior health care living situations, the Jóvenes de Antaño, the Area Agency on Aging, the Del Mar Health Project Center, Palliative Care Project of Hazel Hawkins, Behavioral Health, Senior Citizens Legal Services, Home Health, and Hospice Services. Today, part of our members, we also have Pauline Valdivia from Jóvenes de Antaño. We have Sunny Underwood of the Palliative Care team in Hazel Hawkins. And we also have Patsy Pence here from the Ombudsman. We're all dedicated members. This is a very dedicated group that we feel is important to the constituency of San Benito County because it's one of the most rapidly rising populations, and the issues that are important to them are important to all of us. We have over 1,000 Californians every day turning 65. The state population is growing at 4.7% each year, and the 85-year and older is growing at 9.8%, so rapidly growing population. In San Benito County, we have nearly 10,000 individuals over the age of 60. We also have the medical eligible rate of over 60 has grown 25% since 2011, very significant. And 43% of San Benito County seniors aged 60 or older are considered low income. 43% of San Benito County seniors are considered low income. And the over 60 population is living alone in San Bernardino County has increased 48% since 2011. Well, these are very serious issues. We deal with them head on every month, from everything from the health care to housing to food to loneliness, depression, and the issues that are important to our county. And we came to the conclusion at the beginning of this year, as we reviewed what our goals were, that we needed to bring this to the forefront of your attention, at least on a quarterly basis, so you're aware of the issues that we address very openly of the seniors in our community that become urgent and more prominent when a crisis comes up, like finding somebody that had been laying on their floor for 3 days when Meals on Wheels. We believe that you have a direct impact on how we can provide better services, how we can direct funding, and how we can overall improve how we treat our seniors in our community. Thank you very much. I'll take questions if you have.
Thank you very much. I think what I'll do is I'll direct you to our clerk of the board. You contact her, and then we will make sure that I discuss it with the CAO and the chair, so we can put you on the agenda when you're ready to present to the board.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the
welcome you.
opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Any other speaker cards?
Yes, Elias Gracia.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you, supervisors. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about Martha. I know I got here a little bit late. You guys are very punctual. You guys start right on time, and that's great. But I just wanted to say that Martha, in the short time that I have known her, I started as the Migrant Center Manager about 1.5 years ago, and Martha has gone above and beyond her job description for over 35 years, and most certainly in the last 1.5 years, she's been very instrumental in helping me get started in this career. And I don't think she gets enough credit for everything that she's done. The migrants adore her. They absolutely love her, and I think they're scared a little bit to be without her since they've had her for so long. But I think Martha has definitely, she's definitely approached the migrants and let them know that they are in good hands. And I hope that I can treat them the same way that Martha has treated them. A lot of respect for her and everything that she has done. And I just want to let you guys know how much she really meant to the migrant population. Thank you.
Elias, thank you. We appreciate your words for Martha. Okay. Any other speaker cards? Okay. Anybody, you may come up. There are speaker cards in the back. If you can fill one out, you did. Okay.
What number did you fill it out for? I just said for items 8, 12, and 6.
It's right here, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's up there. Okay. Rosario
Riesgo.
Riesgo.
May I approach?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Rosario Riesgo. I live at the Southside Mobile Home Park, right above the migrant camp. And I'm here to ask for an amendment on the permit. The land is managed by Community Service Workforce Development. My landlord is Sunny Flores. And on February the 4th, I received a 60-day notice of termination of vacancy. I'm here to ask to extend my lease for 2 more years. The reason being is that back in May 29th, they had gave me a paper stating that, may I read it real quick? It says, the new lease agreements will need to be drafted. CSDC will offer 1-year lease agreements to all tenants in good standing and in compliance with all existing lease terms. The new lease may be extended at the end of the first year term to tenants in good standing and in compliance with all lease terms. CSDC will also make permanent rental units available to tenants at our other permanent rental locations as they become available. Tenants will need to qualify under the income and family size limit requirements for these locations. Please contact Sunny Flores. I did make contact with Sunny regarding this, and he told me no available vacancies are available right now. As they come, I will notify you. So I did not go look for other resources. My knowledge was that he would relocate us into town. And so that's the reason why I didn't put applications. And now that I get the 60-day notice, they're not willing to relocate us. It's just, hands are tied. About a week ago, I did attend their meeting, regarding this, if they can extend my services, my lease, and they said their hands were tied because it's up to the county to see if they want to amend the permit. So that's the reason why I'm here. I'm a single mother of 2. I didn't know I had to put out other applications around town because of what they had told me here in their personal letter. Now I don't have anywhere to go. I am due to vacate April 30th. I'm just asking to extend my lease. I understand I need to move, but I need a little bit more time to save up the money. Like I said, I am a single mother of 2. I work constantly.
What I would like to recommend at this time is to direct you to our council, since it's a contract and we have to abide by our own contracts.
Correct.
If you, council, would you be okay? I'd like to have her
Yes,
meet
that's
with
fine.
you
Sure.
and discuss the contract and see what options we may have.
Right.
And maybe we can bring it back to the board.
Right. I think this issue is out there. I'm not intimately aware with it, but please feel free to contact myself after the meeting sometime during this week, and I'll be happy to sit down with you and go through your situation and the contract and see how we can help you.
Excellent.
Okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, probably that's what needs to take place is our council review that the relationship we have with that board and for us to be more familiar with the situation and maybe if there's some other options to help folks, great. If not, we should have it brought back to this board
Okay.
at some point in the future.
Yeah. Yes,
Madam
Supervisor De
Chair,
La Cruz?
What I understand from the members of the audience, member of the audience, is that a memo sent to them a couple months before? I know.
You know what, let's not discuss it at
Yeah,
this time. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
This is only public comment. I've given direction to council.
Yeah.
So we'll proceed that way, and then he can come back and make a recommendation.
Correct, you're right. I'm sorry about that, Madam Chair, but what I'd like to just, incorporate some thoughts into the matter is that it's not fair to send a notice to them 60 days, something's going to end. It would have been preferred that, oh, by the way, in 60 days, in 6 months, we're sending this letter. Be prepared to seek other options.
Yeah, and I think that's why we need for our council to look at it and interpret what really happened and see
Yeah,
if that is,
perfect.
if we followed our own regulations. CAO Espinosa?
Yes, I'd like to be a part of that conversation as well. I'd like to have administration be a part of that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you could both then discuss it, and I will meet with you as well. Okay? Thank-
As soon as we get the information, we'll meet with her and we'll internally investigate into what's going on here, what the situation is, and then we will report back to the board.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, I think we have another speaker card. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. I understand the county got hit up for a little over $250,000 from the Los Valiente activities of, 10, 12 years ago, and that doesn't include the legal fees that you can be expecting. Will we get a report at a future meeting on the details of that, or how will the public get the details of the information?
I believe this is a closed session item, and there will not be any specific information, counsel?
Actually, we will be meeting with the board in closed session to discuss that matter, not today, because there are some things that have not been finalized, but your statement
Anyone else from the public that would like to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to department head announcements. CAO Espinosa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we do have one announcement. It's actually a correction on our agenda. It's a typo out of our Health and Human Services Department on our consent item agenda number 3. It's actually, should read 11 workstations instead of 7. It's actually correct in the staff report, but in the AIT, it's actually 7, so it should be 11. Just wanted to make sure that
Okay, and we don't have to pull it as long as that is noted.
noted. That's correct.
Okay,
That's all. That's all I have.
thank you. Any other department head announcements?
That's all the announcements.
All right. We'll move to board announcements, and I will ask CAO, I'm sorry, not CAO, Supervisor De La Cruz.
I'll take that title, Madam Chair. Now, first of all, I really want to thank Jim from our Health and Human Services Department. He has brought a culture of togetherness and friendly from the employees. I actually did a walk at that department, and I got a lot of positive response from a lot of the employees. They're seeing a huge difference of a positive and get together. And if you happens to have a free time on Thursday at 3 o'clock, Jim will provide, my understanding, some treats if you go talk to him and interact with the departments. I also would like to commend Enrique Arreola. He gave me a tour of his department, and a lot of the employees were very friendly. He was very excited for his staff. I just want to say, kudos and thank you both, Enrique and Jim, for the invitation. I also took a walk at the Public Works and talked to the employees, and hopefully the bad times are over, and hopefully we're beginning to pick up a little bit. But we're still a little cautious. We still need to, manage our budget. We still need to ensure that that just because a dollar comes in doesn't mean we're going to allocate $5. We need to do it smart. We need to do it slow. A huge change in budget can really hurt organizations. So we need to be careful. I'd also like to send out a challenge to my Board of Supervisors members. I don't know if they're going to like this one or not, but last year, Mayor Velasquez and City Council Member Victor Gomez and I participated in Walk a Mile in her shoes, and I can still feel the pain wearing those high heels. It was brutal. I took my wife out to lunch. I actually took her out to her favorite restaurant, Olive Garden, because I wanted to apologize to her for all those nagging remarks that I gave her. Why do you need to buy those shoes? I really do have a better understanding of why members of our community wear those shoes. And she said a remark. I didn't say this remark. She said, he goes, honey, beauty hurts. And I said, yep, I totally agree, and I have respect. And so I challenged my fellow supervisors to join me to walk a mile in her shoes. And it will be on April 11th at 11 o'clock at the corner of San Benito and 4th Street. Find some of those shoes, some of those red shoes. To make pain even worse, try to get some of those real high heels. I will challenge you guys in that, and join me, because this year we're going to do it. So I'm waiting in response. I'm put you guys on notice. I'm waiting for my fellow supervisors to join on board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Supervisor Rivas.
Yes, the only announcement I have to make, Madam Chair, is to invite the community this Wednesday evening to San Benito High School, the auditorium. The high school will be hosting a forum, town hall about the closure, the potential closure of Nash Road, that block between West and Monterey Street. So again, it is tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the auditorium.
Okay, thank you for that information at the high school. Okay, Supervisor Botello?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yesterday, along with our executive director at COG, I participated in a teleconference briefing of a legislative day that the Central Coast Coalition is going to have in Sacramento next week. And as I hope the public understands, this board has been on a crusade in 2015 to work on our roads. And the problem with, the county rural roads, along with our city roads, is lack of funding to maintain them to a standard that we would all like to see. And we're not alone in this problem. I'm sure every supervisor and councilman have had complaints about roads. And this is not just a local issue, it's a state issue and probably a national issue. And the problem is there's just not enough revenue being generated to maintain the roads and do more than the pothole filling. And we all know we need to have overlays and chip seal done. And so, along with Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, and ourselves, we're go to Sacramento and lobby the CTC, Department of Transportation, as well as some legislators that represent us there for solutions. And we really need to work on that. And so I'm pretty excited about the opportunity of representing San Bernardino County up in Sacramento to lobby for solutions to road maintenance at a local level.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I will be addressing a few of the ideas that are coming from CSAC in regards to ideas on how to generate revenue. So thank you for that.
Yes,
info.
and it is interesting, in Friday's Mercury, they had a front page article.
Yeah, I see.
We all want our roads fixed, but nobody wants to pay for it. You know, so it's interesting, and it's a problem for us as far as how we're going to raise revenue in a fair and equitable
Exactly.
manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Patella. Supervisor Munzer.
I have nothing this week.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Supervisor De La Cruz. I brought a picture of the shoes that he wore last year. Here they are. And, but this is a very important event that will take place, as he said, on April the 11th. I would want to encourage and also put out the challenge to the supervisors to go out and join Men's March Against Violence. So there is a fee. It starts at, the fee is, I believe, early entry is $35. On-site registration is $40. And check-in is at 10 o'clock. So it'll start at the corner of 4th and San Benito Street. So if you can be there, I encourage you to support this March Against Violence. Thank you.
Fourth
And
and
then-
San Benito?
4th and San Benito. April the 11th, it's a Saturday morning, and it's usually done by noon. So, and I participated in a conference call with representatives from Assemblyman Alejo, Senator Canela's office, and Congressman Farr. And along with representatives from the Panoche Valley Solar Farm, we spoke with them and asked them for support in having this project approved at the state level Fish and Wildlife Agency. It is being held up. I believe that San Benito County has done everything, and so has the developer, to try to make this mitigate every issue that has come forth, but yet it's still sitting in Sacramento waiting. And I believe, and some of these folks also believe, that the environmentalists are actually trying to hold it up as much as possible, because there are credits that are coming to the developer that are going to expire, that will no longer be available, and if they hold it off long enough, this project could go away. It means a lot, as we all know, to San Benito County in the way of money, in the way of jobs, and so I will be going up there on March the 12th. We are trying to set up meetings. They're helping us to set up those meetings with those departments and pretty much stand before them and ask for their help to make this project move forward. So I'm hoping that I get a consensus, that I can represent the board there, and not just myself as a supervisor, and certainly hope that they will reach some sort of agreement to move forward to assist us. So, okay, Supervisor Rivas.
I certainly support it, but I think your comment is a little bit vague, because I'm an environmentalist and I'm not blocking that project. So maybe there's a group out there that's blocking the project.
Yeah, and I apologize for that, but it would be the environmentalists that have come forward before, and I am an environmentalist of sorts too, so thank you. That wasn't the intent, but I think you know the organizations that I am speaking about that have tried to hold up the project from the very beginning. So thank you, Supervisor Rivas.
Madam Chair, I support Supervisor Rivas on that concept, and I will actually give you my support, and I'll have that day free if you need me to go with you.
Okay, very good, thank you. I would like that. Okay. We're arranging it right now. I'll hear soon, and I will let you know.
If you want me to go with you, I'll tag along.
Okay, it's an all-day event,
I
so
understand,
we're
I
hoping.
understand.
Any other comments?
No, you got my support, Supervisor.
Okay, very good, thank you so much. Now we'll move on to consent agenda items 1 through 6 with the change from our CAO Espinosa on item number 3. Is there a motion to approve? Or is it anybody from the public that would like to pull any of the items?
Yes, item number 6,
Item number 6 is being pulled by
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones, okay? Any items that the board would like to pull at this time?
Motion to approve of amended agenda.
There's a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 5. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 6, Mr. Jones, I welcome you to the mic.
Thank you again, Madam Chairman. I think this is probably a good item, trying to get electronic planning and in dragging us into the 21st century, and we'll even be able to communicate electronically across departmental lines. But it was kind of interesting there in the transmittal. They're asking for $5,600. They need $5,000 in overtime and another $600 in pencils and paper clips in order to overcome their learning challenges. They have learning challenges. We used to call that you're in over your head. So we've got to have, again, $5,600 to learn how to do 21st century electronic planning and communications. And it's interesting that last week y'all spent 30 minutes bashing the grand jury because they needed $5,600 that they had notified you for, 6 months ago. You spent half an hour bad-mouthing the grand jury, but wanting to investigate them. But here we're slipping $5,600 through on the consent agenda because they are in over their head. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. CAO Espinosa, do you have any comments regarding that? Because I know that it's much more than Mr. Jones has expressed, and it deals with our new system.
Yeah, I was actually trying to go through my notes. We actually had a meeting, an internal meeting, to discuss the issues that we have with posting our revenue. Currently, right now, we have, with the new system in place, have been having difficulties posting our revenues, which has caused some issues from a documentation point of view and actually auditing point of view. It's been extremely difficult. So we've actually put in a plan to have staff, external staff outside of the treasurer's tax collector's office to assist this department to move forward with getting everything up to date. So we met with Joe Paul, Mary Lou Andretti, and other staff members to discuss what the needs would be. And again, these are estimates not to exceed. We feel that we would be under that figure. There was some administration fees, and honestly, I just was trying to go through my notes right now on that, and I actually don't have what those fees, but they came from our auditor, Joe Paul Gonzalez, to request that number. Unfortunately, he's not present right now to answer that.
But I think when you and I sat before to discuss this item for the agenda, that it is going to benefit other departments. There will be other departments there as this is being presented and this is being learned. And so it'll go across departments and not just the treasurer's office, but that is where it is going to be.
Yeah,
that training will be.
That's right. And so each department will then be able to incorporate or scan information into the system. So currently, we are spending a lot more than $600 on paper, pens, and other things duplicating our work. So what's happening is we have to go in and manually enter all this information in right now at the tax collector treasurer's office. So we want to disseminate that work, decentralizing that work to the departments to scan and put that information into the system. So at that point, all they have to do is audit and then approve it. Everything will be computerized. It will not be done by pen and paper anymore or duplication of work. And it's kind of ringing a bell for me. I think that this case was to buy supplies or hardware, and in case of scanners or other things, to get that work done in the other departments. If I recall, that's what that figure was for, to actually get that equipment in place for that. So
No doubt that it wasn't paper and pencil.
it's not just
Yeah.
paper and pencils.
Yeah,
It was actually
paper and
equipment,
pencil.
so that we can actually scan this information in the system. So this is a huge move forward for the county. And, you know, there is such waste right now going on with the duplication of everything. It's just to eliminate that.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Batella.
Yes, I want to support our department heads and our staff on this request. You know, like the CEO mentioned, this is a huge undertaking, a great step in efficiency for the county with the ERP system. And the fact of the matter is that whenever you change systems, there's a learning curve involved. And it takes a little bit more time and effort. And I don't think this is out of line. Our treasurer has come before this board numerous times, you know, asking for more help and staff and management support. And we have never been able to accommodate that department or any other department in the county. And this is a unique circumstance, a lot different than other issues that we may be talking about today. So I support this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Any other comments from the public on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back for a decision.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve budget augmentation amounts $5,600 and allow the Treasurer's Office the requested use of overtime to accomplish the goals detailed above.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to regular agenda item, and the first one, I'll try not to take too much time, and I'd like to report back on a meeting that I attended by phone on Thursday, February the 19th. It was held at the CSAC Conference Center in Sacramento, but I didn't drive. I was able to attend by phone, as a lot of other supervisors did. And I just want to highlight some of the things that were on that, or took place at that meeting. There was a representative from Governor Brown's office in regards to the budget for 2015-2016 for the state of California. And they announced that the budget will be balanced. Any extra dollars that come in that are unexpected are going to go towards K-12 education under Prop 98. So they're not expecting to give the counties any more money beyond what they're already planning. There are $2.8 billion for the rainy day fund that started during the recession, and that has been built up to that amount. So I'm very happy that the state of California is taking the responsibility, and I know that they're setting a path for us to follow, so make sure that it will not always be cushy, and we will have to rely on those funds to survive. $533 million have been set aside for mandate claims to local government, meaning that any mandates that have come down to the county, to local government from the state of California will be paid to the tune of $533 million. So if our county has any claims, they will look at them, and there is a possibility that we will be getting monies from them. Rural counties, which is San Benito County, they will be considering monies for the county fairs. Remember, a few years ago, they took all that money away, and our 33rd Ag really suffered a lot of with the loss of that. I believe it was $200,000 that went away. So they're considering bringing that back. So that's good news for San Benito County. And they're also considering payments for open space. And that is not supplanting the Williamson Act, but it is a different proposal, and I'm going to just kind of read to you what they are expecting to do. And that's good news for San Benito County because we have lost a lot of money in taking away those funds. They said it was not exactly like the Williamson subvention, but it's for conservation of ag lands. So it's going to be done a little bit differently. There will be $130 million that will be available in June. So I know San Benito County will get some of those funds. I don't know how much. They're going to figure that out, but it is specifically for rural counties to conserve lands. So what they're calling it is additional revenues for local open space acquisition programs such as the subvention funds formerly provided by the Williamson Act, reimbursement to local agencies for property tax losses, protection of current agricultural production lands through the purchasing of development rights. So that's what's coming, hopefully, for San Benito County. We will benefit from those millions of dollars that the state will be giving out. And Supervisor Botello, you mentioned transportation. That was the biggest item at that meeting. The lack of revenues, they are depleting every single day. The state gasoline excise tax has not been increased since 1994, so that has played a big part in the loss of transportation dollars. The hybrid alternative fuel and electric cars they're saying they do not pay to play. They're on the roads, but they don't pay any taxes on gasoline, so therefore we have lost all those dollars as well. The use of transportation system continues to increase. So cars are traveling because of the fuel economy, are on the road more, and so it deteriorates our roads even more, and that's continuing to increase. The prices of gasoline that just went down recently are going to play a big part on the lesser funds that are going to be available for our roads. So that's a huge loss for everybody, the state and the county. So with that in mind, we are going to have to plan our own way of how we're going to fund the repairs and the maintenance of our roads. So for short-term solutions, CSAC is exploring a lot of options, and I'm going to read the 5 options that they are exploring, and they will be presenting to the state of California and see if maybe those short-term options can give us some relief. Number 1 would be to increase the base gas tax, and that would be done to the tune, they can generate with 1 cent gas tax, it can generate $150 million a year. Not a whole lot of money, especially when it's $58 billion is needed statewide for the roads, the highways, and bridges. Increasing the vehicle license fee. That's another way it can be a short fix. And that can generate approximately $2.9 billion annually. The third one is to increase the vehicle registration fee as opposed to the license fee, and that can generate upwards of $3 billion annually. Redirect weight fees back to transportation, and so that would mean approximately $1 billion in weight fee revenues that would otherwise go to transportation projects that could come back to local. And then to reduce the voter threshold for local tax measures. And we know that in order to pass anything, we need to have, I believe it's 2/3 in order to pass a tax. But they're hoping that they can reduce that and allow counties to be able to adopt local sales tax measures that can pass a little easy and give us some relief. So those are the ideas that are coming from CSAC that will be presented to the state in hopes of assistance. And the CSAC advocacy group, they always are advocating and lobbying for counties. Besides those specifically to transportation, they will be looking for $6 billion statewide for counties for the 2011 realignment monies to increase those funds to the county by $6 billion. They are also looking for $1.3 billion for the AB 85 Affordable Care Act implementation. And as you well know, it has come back to counties to manage, and it is costing us a lot of money, and hopefully they will offer us some relief for our department, especially in the Health and Human Services and Behavioral Health departments. Cap and trade funds secure additional funding to the tune of $500 million to $1 billion for greenhouse gas reduction projects that are being implemented by counties. Water bond, influence water bond allocation. As we all know, we are in the middle of probably the worst drought the state of California has suffered in many, many years, and we are looking for assistance on how to address that issue locally. Court security funding, it's still on the list. They'll be looking, and you know that affects San Benito County. They're looking for $2.5 to $5 million to not only maintain the recent increases, but to secure new resources for the new facilities. So I'm hoping that our new facility will fall under that request. Mentally ill offender crime reduction grants, $100 million. Medi-Cal administration, $500 million. In-home support services, as you well know, we're always being approached by the IHSS for greater effort from the county, and that effort really needs to come from the state of California. So they're looking to have an additional $1 billion for the maintenance of effort. Property tax allocation issues, secure continued funding for counties with insufficient ERAF, which is San Benito County. We're one of the lowest at 11 cents to the dollar, and so it isn't enough to maintain the services that we need to provide. And the list is long, but that is the effort that CSAC is going to put forth on behalf of counties, and I appreciate that they're always in the forefront. They're always at the governor's office. We have probably the greatest communication, the greatest relationship that we have ever had with a governor, where they are able to sit with him personally and his staff to ask for some of this consideration. So I want to thank CSAC for that, and if there are any questions at this time, I will be happy to answer them.
Yeah, no question. CSAC does a great job representing the counties of California, and I don't know if you notice, Madam Chair, if does CSAC have a position on Senate Bill 1077, which is another revenue possibility for roads, is it's called a road charge, similar to what I think Oregon is experimenting with, and it's a charge that is based on a user pays type of system. The more you drive, the more you pay for roads, and it cuts across electric cars and all types of vehicles. And I think California is kind of looking into whether that's viable for our state, and if CSAC has a position on that type of revenue stream.
Yes, actually they do, and at the CSAC conference in November, that was one of the items that was brought up. And we are going to follow the Oregon model, but it won't be until 2017. They're looking at how they're going to proceed, because this is going to be a very, unique approach for California on how we collect funds. And yes, it will be based on, but what they cannot figure out is how to monitor. How do you monitor country roads as opposed to highways? How do you monitor local roads as opposed to to freeways? And so that is the challenge, but they are learning from what has happened in Oregon. They will use that model as a basis, and I believe that they were going to use approximately 6,000 residents initially to test and see if that was a viable way to tax. So yes, absolutely, the CSAC is going to be in the forefront of that. Okay?
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the public? Marty?
Marty Richmond from Hollister. Let me start with a disclaimer as usual, and the disclaimer is this: I'm retired. I don't commute. I don't go anywhere with my car hardly. I hardly use any gasoline. And my car is 15 years old. So no matter what they do, it's not going to come much out of my pocket. But I am shocked that the list of CSAC's options concerning the roads doesn't include the most obvious one, which is to reduce the cost of roads in California. One of our problems is you go out here to fix a pothole in California, it costs you 4 times as much as anywhere else in the nation. It's shocking they're talking about raising the taxes. California has the highest gasoline taxes in the nation. And I don't care whether the number goes up or the number goes down on the price of gasoline, because much of that gasoline tax, as you should know, is a excise tax. And it doesn't matter whether it goes up or goes down. There's sales taxes on it, there's excise taxes, there's federal excise taxes. Okay? Now, California did something extraordinarily stupid, which is they did it on a percentage basis when what they should have done is do a reverse percentage so that the cost of gasoline stays the same and it quits going up and down all the time. So when gasoline gets cheaper, the tax gets higher, and when gasoline gets more expensive, the tax gets lower, and you basically flatten out the gasoline tax costs rather than going in and saying, this week it's $10 a gallon, last week it was only $2 a gallon, because we're in that, again, we're now going super high. So California's real problem concerning this has nothing to do with the taxes too low. This is one area where the tax is the highest in the nation. Should we be twice as much as North Carolina, or 4 times as much as Arizona, or 8 times as much? Is that our only option? The problem is, every time we go to build a mile of road, it's $400 million or whatever the hell the number is. It's crazy. And the reason is that we've got, in Sacramento, people sitting 30 deep doing nothing but checking drawings. And when you go by a Caltrans group, there's one person there working their head off, and there's 5 people holding flags and shovels because it's what? I don't know what. A union job? I don't know. I lived in Europe for 16 years as an adult, and I never saw a flagman one. They put out something called a traffic light, and it runs on a little timer. That was 30 years ago. Apparently, we can't do that. We've got to have 3 flagmen working out there, okay? So our problem is it costs too much, and I will wrap up, to fix our roads, and that's our problem. Thank you for your time.
Marty. Any other comments from the public regarding this item? Okay, it's just a report, so we don't need a motion. Thank you for allowing me to present. We'll move on to item number 8, and CAO Espinosa, if you could introduce that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this item was originally brought to the board's attention on February 10th at our board's retreat under organization. We, administration, were asked to bring a new ordinance to the board February 17th, which was continued to today to allow the ad hoc made up of Supervisor De La Cruz, Chairperson Margie Barrios, to scrutinize our current ordinance, PC 890, and the Attorney General's opinion. This meeting did occur with counsel, myself, as well as the ad hoc and the grand jury foreperson, Robert Martin. And in addition to this, the committee was asked also to look at the grand jury's budget and look at the proposed budget addition by the grand jury, which was actually reduced from $12,000 plus to $9,089. So today, the recommendation is to increase the grand jury's budget for fiscal year 14-15. The figure is actually $5,500 is what the ad hoc came up with, not the $5,406, as well as accepting the introduction of the ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 3.01 of Title 3 of the San Benito County Code. So this is the recommendation, and I'd like to defer any additional comments to our ad hoc chairperson, Margie Barrios, and Supervisor Jaime De La Cruz.
Okay, Supervisor De La Cruz, any comments?
Only comments were that kind of started off kind of hostile at first, but I think towards the middle of the conversation, it became a mutual understanding that there was a slight of a difference of opinion on how to handle a budget, how to work certain terminologies that were used on the resolution, and hopefully that during this hour and a half discussion that we had with members of the grand jury, there was some type of resolution. It didn't happen. They still wanted the $9,000, and Marge, chairperson, and I said, well, thank you for your input. We wanted to know how the process works, who gets assigned to what committee, what's the definition of a committee. Is it a one-person committee? Is it a two-person committee? Is it a three-person committee? How is the rule defined in terms of the entire state of California? And actually, as it stands today and subject to change later on today, we're probably on one of the generous side when it comes to I can't say the word paying or stipend the members of the grand jury, and so there was really very little resolution. It was more of an opportunity to hear each other out, and the gentleman wanted to submit next year's budget, and I said, no, I don't want to see that right now. Let's deal with 14-15 at the moment. And some of the discussions that were brought up, and the board understand, I don't know if the members of the grand jury understand, is that there's got to be some type of control policy, budget control policy. There's got to be someone who manages their funds, because every department in our county has someone who's responsible for managing their budget and ensuring that the budget does not spend their money before the end of the year. There was no resolution brought to that, but our chairperson and myself and Ray, we had another meeting on Thursday, and we discussed some policies, some recommendations that we would like to present to the board, and they're here today for your consideration. So we can go through them, we can allow the public members to come up to us and discuss what we want to do, but we felt that the
$5,500
was a fair amount of dollars available for them to complete this year and allow them to make their reports. Starting next year, some of the recommendations that we're asking the board to implement is you got to have somebody responsible for the expenditures of the funds for the 15th, 16th year. And then make some changes to the resolutions that we have today. And then move forward, and then at the same time, allow the members of the grand jury to do the job. We don't want to hinder them, the ability to do the job, but let them do the job within a budget amount of dollars. And that's what I got out of the meeting, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you so much, Supervisor De La Cruz. I want to thank the grand jury. It was a good meeting. We learned a lot as to, well, we found out that there really are there's no clear process or clear procedures for the grand jury. I'm not faulting them. It just isn't there. And like I mentioned, it's an ever-turning, as far as the folks that are part of this grand jury. So there's no real formal passing of the baton, so to speak, in like who is responsible for addressing the budget, who is responsible for any kind of procedures or process on how to set up committees. There really is nothing in place, and I asked that of the foreman, and it's clear to me that may have been one of the reasons why there was really no control of the dollars that were being spent. And so it's unfortunate, and like I said, I'm not faulting them, but moving forward, we need to have a plan. And it either gets done by the Board of Supervisors, and we direct and say, this is how we're going to direct our the grand jury to proceed with a plan, or it comes from them, and then it gets approved by the Board of Supervisors. But without those a clear process and clear procedures, there will be no control of the budget. And that's unfortunate. We cannot have that. If we are the stewards of county funds, we need to make sure that that budget is kept in line, and that we don't have to hear that there is a needed, half as much or twice as much as was budgeted the year before. So that's what I got out of the meeting, and I hopefully moving forward will be able to address those concerns. So, any other comments from Supervisor Patel?
I guess I'll offer a couple of my observations listening to the subcommittee and actually reading this, agenda item, which I'm somewhat disappointed in the fact that, we know what the mistakes were made with this year's grand jury group. And there should have been some sort of outline as far as going forward, those procedures, how they should conduct themselves before we approve this budget. I have a sense that we're just throwing money at a problem and without knowing how it's to be spent and how it's going to be reformed. This has never been a problem before. And this is just a problem this year to a grand scale, and to, I would like a better understanding before I support anything today as far as how we got here. Is it because we have 7, 8, 9 grand jury members going to subcommittee meetings that are relatively routine, and when it should be broke out to, a subcommittee of 3 assigned jurors or so, and that just shoots the costs right through the roof. Another thing I'm kind of concerned about our resolution here is mileage. I'd rather pay a few dollars more on the stipend than worry about mileage. It's a small area that we're covering, and it just adds to the complexity of reimbursement. But maybe during public testimony, the chairman or individual grand jury members will come up, put my mind at ease as far as what mistakes were made and how we go forward in the future, and we could just move on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments before I open it up to the public? Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, just, and I hope that the members of the public will address Supervisor Vitello's concerns, but let me, throw in my 2 cents on the matter. And actually, Ray was very elegant on asking those questions at the committee. I took it as an opportunity not to scrutinize them, but to know that there's an issue in their budget. There's no one in there who's responsible to making sure we only have this much money. Pick your committees that are important to you because the budget only allows this. I got the impression there was no one person who can handle that. And that's a big burden. Someone to tell a committee member, we only have so much money that allowed for the rest of the year. But he got the signal from our chairperson and I that the Board of Supervisors will not allow that to happen, will not allow it to continue happening. At the same time, we felt that this $5,000+ will be afforded enough to finish the books, the year, and during the budget process, those questions that you ask, we, the board, or them, the members of the grand jury today, will say, this is the plan that we have that we want to work on. Because during the budget process, there will be guidelines in place to ensure that they don't come back again next year and say, oh, we don't have any money. So I kind of felt a little bit that we fail you, but at the same time, I want to explain, I want to give you my feelings at what we felt. There were some accomplishments made, because they might share a difference of opinion with us and say, no, you still need to give us a full amount, and we have the right to do it. But I just want to tell you from my experience as a Board of Supervisors and attached to the purse, we have an obligation to the rest of the taxpayers that some type of policy controls need to be in place.
Supervisor Rivas.
So I think that our chairwoman said it best. Regardless of what was said from our audience, some members that want to grandstand that, we really heaped on you guys. We called for an investigation. That's untrue. I think I was the one that called for investigation, but it was an absolute joke. You watched the video. I did it to lighten the mood. I didn't mean it. If I was going to ask for an investigation, a formal investigation, you'd know about it. But I think what we have here is what the chairwoman said, and she said it best. was we have a lack of structure, and we have a lack of the control, especially related to the fiscal process of the grand jury. I went to the Monterey County website, and it basically said, you know, their reimbursement policies were clearly stated on their website. It was like, it said $15 a day for regular meetings and their committee meetings, and they get mileage reimbursement. The County of Santa Clara, their website said $20 for meetings and grand jury activities, whatever that means, and mileage. And, you know, based on some of the research that I can gather, based on, you know, an opinion from our Attorney General, you know, under the Penal Code Section 890, we are at a bare minimum mandated to provide our grand jury members the compensation only for grand jury sessions of the entire membership. And all the other activities, whether we compensate for committee meetings, whether we compensate for, I believe, even mileage, whether we compensate for meetings you attend during an investigation, that's entirely up to the Board of Supervisors. And so it varies from county to county. But I think that one thing that cannot be taken out of perspective is the fact that the grand jury is largely a voluntary opportunity to serve your county and your community, and that can't be taken out of perspective. You know, especially a county like ours, where we have struggled since 2008 with our budget. So you can understand that when we have an occurrence such as we've had with our finances, it's a shock. It's a shock to all of us, especially when we're trying to be fiscally responsible. And it's very challenging when we face matters like escalating road costs, when we have, you know, these pension funds that we've got to fund. And so even a small amount, whether it be $9,000 or $5,000, it certainly is a shock to us all. But I think in the end, what we have to do is work to fix the situation, and I think fix this, you know, to tighten the structure when it comes to the budgets of the grand jury. So,
Thank you.
thanks, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Munger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comment is this is an important.
Microphone, please.
Sorry. This is an important issue. I think we need to understand what the grand jury wants to accomplish. I know they'll be very respectful in relating that information to us today. And I would request of you, Madam Chair, that you allow the four-person maybe a little bit of leeway in his presentation.
I have already spoken with him, and I
Okay,
agreed
so
that I would do that. Some of the grand jury members are not coming up to the mic, and so I'm going to allow our foreman to speak for 5.5 minutes.
Okay,
So,
thank you. That's it.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you for that recommendation. Any other comments from the board? Okay, I'm going to open it up now to the public. So if you could, you have some speaker cards?
Yes, Bob Martin,
Okay, Mr. Martin?
that'll be 5.5 minutes.
Yes. He timed himself on what he wants to say.
Which may not be the tendency. First of all, I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, members of the board. Hopefully, what will happen during my few minutes up here will clarify some of the questions you have, but maybe inform you a little bit better so you have an understanding of how we really function. So I'm going to approach it as being what, why, and how of the grand jury. The grand jury is the most independent investigative body in the county. It is a body of 19 citizens. They're volunteers and is independent of administrators, politicians, and legislators. All jurors are sworn to secrecy to protect the confidentiality of complaints and interviews. Empowered by the judicial system, the grand jury is a fact-finding body that develops meaningful solutions to a wide range of governmental problems. We are the watchdogs of San Bernardino County. That is why we exist, or what we exist. The why of the grand jury: the mission is to help local governments be more accountable and efficient. That is our job. The jury accomplishes this by monitoring the performance of county, city, and other public entities within the county, and by conducting research, interviewing public officials, employees, customers, experts, and citizens, and visiting public facilities. Reports are issued that contain findings and recommendations which have the potential of increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of the government services. On behalf of the citizens of this county, we strive to make you better. Now, how do we do it? We do it by organization. The organization of 19 jurors comes together as a whole, and they're formed into committees. The committees are 5 in nature, and they define the different areas within the county that need or have areas of investigation. We then go into committee selections, going into topic selections. A committee meets to determine what are the areas they want to suggest to the grand jury as a whole, or what needs to be investigated. It can come from media, it can come from past reports, the need to review and readdress different areas of county administration or city administration. It can come just from general topics that are happening, and they come out from introduced by different members of the grand jury. Committees, when they go into their sessions and determine the areas of investigation, come to the board as a whole, or the grand jury as a whole, and must have 12 votes to approve any investigation going forward. And then they go into the process of doing interviews, on-site visits, and research. There is a plan in effect. Part of that is you do not know the extent of what's going to take place until you really get into the necessary investigations that you're going to be doing. And they vary by year, and they vary by depth. A lot of time spent by a grand jury is spent on their own. And the area of compensation is never an area that's been addressed as far as the need to be on the grand jury. However, compensation, which is provided under the state mandate, is in fact something that they're entitled to as small, because most of their time is even done on their own. A lot of the cost comes out of their pocket and is done at home. That never appears before you as a cost. So that's what the grand jury does. But let's talk about what's happening today, because today you have 2 important decisions before you that will affect the efficiency of the current grand jury and grand juries of the future. Your first decision is the budget augmentation, 5,500 as versus the 5,406, which says or other. I would like you to be aware of the fact that you were all notified in August of last year that this budget was not sufficient. It didn't come new to you. It didn't suddenly appear before you in February at the February 3rd meeting or 17th meeting. It was known to you. And the reason I can say that is I was told by Supervisor Dela Cruz that if I spoke to the CAO, in fact, I'm talking to all of you, he was notified at the very first meeting that we could set up with the CAO, this budget is not workable. We cannot perform and do the job that we were put in position to go ahead and do. I was told at that time that possibly we could look at things to make it better. That was in August. That same comment was repeated again in a meeting in October. So there has been knowledge, and again, I am informed that if I am talking to your CAO, I am talking to you. So therefore, to have the comments that came out on the February 17th meeting that we were frivolous in what we were doing were not fair comments. I apologize. I was not here for that meeting, but I watched you on CMAP in Florida. And I could also speak to whether or not your intention, your comments were proper. I don't think they were, and I think some of what we said were not either. So I'll agree with you on that. We requested a submission to improve the budget by $12,821. Okay, we went back and we tried to redo and take a look at the 9 and 10 investigations that are ongoing to make sure we complete what we are obligated to do to the citizens of this community. We then adjusted our request down to $9,089. We cut out meetings in our projections. And what we're saying right now, if you take the board augmentation of $5,500 and take out your A-87 cost that we have to pay to administration, which is an automatic deduction as I understand it, it brings us down into the range of $4,000. We have printing costs to put out a document like this. It still has to be incurred as a part of that budget. And we have copying costs that are involved in that also. Ultimately, you got us down to about $3,000 to complete 9 reports. I'm going to tell you, it cannot be done, and I can also tell you it will not be done, because there's no way that we can go ahead and complete those. There are still some ongoing investigations, one of which is in the hands of the district attorney, and if that comes back to us, then we must go ahead and complete that. The last thing that I haven't thrown in there regarding this is that we do citizen complaints. This grand jury has had 8 of them. Last year's grand jury had 2 of them. It varies by year. The depth of what we have to do changes by year. Anyway, what we are asking you to please create and realize that the $9,089 was a legitimate expense that we're asking, or augmentation. Our original budget was $19,500. Other juries in the state of California range from $33,500 to $115,000. I have looked at every budget in all 58 counties, which I seriously doubt that anybody on the Board of Supervisors or in the CAO office has done. Modoc County, which is 3,007 people, has a budget of $15,000 for 11 jurors. So no, that's not all fair. You, in fact, are probably the lowest budget of any county grand jury.
Mr. Martin, if you could summarize?
Okay, one last thing if I can. Just give me a few seconds more, and I don't want to speak to the ordinance if I could. It'll only take me another minute. Okay. Regarding the ordinance, that ordinance was in 1993. It was 22 years old. It is not law. It was an interpretation given to the district attorney of Yuba County. There is not one county, including Yuba, that follows that opinion. Not one county. 58 of them in nature. None of them follow that. They all pay mileage, and they all pay a fee for meetings, all meetings. I thank you for your time. I hope that has meant something to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir?
Mr. Martin, if you could come to the mic, there may be some questions of you.
Thank you. Sir.
If you can address, what procedures does the grand jury have in monitoring its budget throughout the year?
I think your comment actually is very well stated. At different points, we've looked at where we are in relationship to cost and stuff. It is not as good as it could be, and there are changes that need to be made in that area. However, in the starting out of the process, and we did the analysis of what the budget was, that's why we went to the CAO and stated as to what we believed would be an unworkable budget. But still, at that point in time, other than on paper, we did not know the scope of what investigations were. We tried to start cutting out meetings in the second quarter, and that basically is the only way we can control it. We do not try to stop people from going ahead and doing the investigations. So that's the only answer I can give you on that.
Okay, thank you.
If you could just stay there in case there's
Sure,
other questions.
absolutely.
Supervisor Botello?
Yes, thank you. Going forward, if you're granted a budget augmentation as the chairman of the grand jury, what procedures have you kind of changed or to save some money.
We
I just want to,
We went through every committee at the last meeting and said, based on what you have left to do, how many meetings do you need to do realistically, honestly, and complete the work you've got done? So taking the numbers as given to me by the committee chair people, then we will reduce their committee meetings accordingly so we fit within the budget. But what I'm telling you regarding the augmentation can't be done for the amount of investigations we have going. And then we can't stop those. The reason we can't stop them because they don't carry over till next year. According to the law, we cannot, as a grand jury, take what has been done before. We can take documents, but we cannot take interviews that have been done before without re-interviewing them ourselves. So next year's grand jury, if we stop an investigation at this point, and we've got piles of stuff, cannot accept that. They have to re-interview all the persons involved. Documents they can't accept. So we can't just pass on what is currently being done.
so there's no limitation of size of committees, you know, some of the,
You have to have a minimum of 2 people doing interviews. Committee sizes are distributed out through the 19 people that are on the jury. By the way, we're not at 19, we're 16. But you start out at 19 because that's your budget. That's what you technically are working with. And then you take the 5 committees you have and you give everybody a primary committee. Okay? Most grand juries throughout the state, and this is pretty consistent, will run 2 to 3 committees that a person will be on. So you have a primary committee, so if you're taking that and just dividing it, basically, you're putting 5 people or 4 people on every committee, using the number 19. And then you're adding other people to the secondary committee. Most of our people are only on 2. There are some that have been put on 3 because of either past experience and have already knowledge within that given area. So that's how the breakdown goes. And interviews and stuff normally go out that you have to have a minimum of 2, but in most cases you're running 4 people out to an interview. And that's based on the idea you want people to watch, observe, and people pick up different things off of different comments that are given by people. It makes for more effective juries. Those people have to come back then to the entire grand jury and sell what actually is being done as far as the report and the investigation. And it takes 12 people then to approve what's happening. Okay.
Supervisor Rivas.
Yes. So if you could help me understand, you know, the trouble I've had with like this reimbursement is I understand reimbursement for general meetings with the entire grand jury. I guess I'm getting a better understanding of the committees. But then there's also a piece of observations where you have these grand jury members that are getting compensated or reimbursed for just observing a meeting. Does that fall under the discretion of a committee?
Observing what meetings?
The work of a committee, of just observing meetings, going to a meeting?
No. Everybody that goes to a meeting takes part in that meeting.
No, what I'm talking about is, so we have a board meeting here today.
Correct.
Twice a month on Tuesdays, so we have people attending these meetings and are getting compensated for being in the audience.
Not
Is that
in all
part
ca-
of their
Not in
committee
all
work?
cases.
But in most cases, that's why the budget has been exhausted. So that's a problem I'm having a tough time with.
Let me answer that,
Okay,
Supervisor, for you.
I'm sorry.
Let the Supervisor
Let me
Rivas
just finish my
complete his
thought.
statement.
Okay.
So does that fall, that observation, just going to observe meetings, whether it be Board of Supervisors, City Council, does that fall under the assignments from the committees? Would
It
that be a
could,
committee?
it could, and that's the only way I can answer it. What a committee will do, let's take the county committee, because basically that's who appears at your meetings. If an agenda item is of an item of concern to the county, to that committee, then those people have people in attendance to observe it and make a report back on it. If it is an item that possibly could look to an investigation, then they might have somebody at your meeting. If it's for pure observation, no. And if they've submitted for that, then it's incorrect and should not be paid.
Any other? Supervisor Munson.
I think I want to piggyback off of that. So there has to be at least 2 people in attendance at a meeting or interview in order to be reimbursed?
2 people, correct.
So there's never been any time where one person has been?
No. Let me answer that. We're talking about a committee, and a committee on an investigation doing an interview. I get reimbursed on meetings I've had, maybe with the judge or the CAO and stuff. I will submit for those times.
And pardon me for asking, but what is the basis for that?
It's the same as a meeting. It's a meeting taking place. The 2-party is an interview. Those are 2 people in an interview. That's the stipulation by the grand jury law, that 2 people must be involved in the
Okay, I
interview.
understand that.
Okay?
But when you, I'm assuming you're doing this as a foreman,
Correct. It's on jury business.
and where did the stipulation come from that you're reimbursed for that?
There's no stipulation. It's a matter of doing grand jury business.
And I think Supervisor Munzer, that is exactly what my point at the beginning, is that it isn't clear who gets paid. Because if the committees are, and you mentioned that there were 5, in nature for a committee, but yet we're paying individual people that attended only by themselves at least 28 instances where they appeared by themselves. So there's no clear picture for us. Is that a committee? Is that one of your procedures, processes?
It's stated on the reports that are turned in as to what it is and what the purpose is. You have an attendance sheet that is signed by each of the members of the committee or the persons that are submitting their attendance sheets. It states on there who the committee is, and it states what the purpose of that meeting was. So it should be clear on any of the papers that you would pull as to what the reason was.
But it isn't actually clear because it isn't part of a procedure. It's like anybody can go and meet with anybody at one
No.
time, with one person
No, that's not true.
and they get
No,
reimbursed.
that's not true. There's only one person that can do that, and that was me.
So if you have somebody that's getting reimbursed over $1,000, they actually that's part of a committee. But if it's only one person receiving that and there should have been at least 2 there, you would think that they would each get that amount of money, but
No,
there's so
no.
much discrepancy
Most of
there.
that money, if you look at it, is in mileage for the people you're talking about. We have individuals that do 26 miles round trip. We have individuals that do 20.4 miles round trip.
No, these were meetings. We pulled in, they were all meetings. Supervisor Rivas, Munzer, I'm sorry. you-
No, that's fine. I'm done.
You're
Thank you.
done. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, any other comments from the public at this time? Yes, go ahead.
Ross, another speaker.
Okay.
And Ross.
And Ross?
I haven't spoken before. My name is Ann Ross, and I joined the grand jury this year. I was appointed by Judge Sanders. You said earlier about your obligation to the taxpayers, and I would like to maybe change the framework, your mindset about the grand jury. The hostility that happened last time versus today it's been great. We've been seeming cooperative. But what's not really understood, I don't think, by the board is that we're an asset to you. We have the same goal, an obligation to the taxpayers. Most of our things that we turn out investigating, and some of the reasons why Bob couldn't answer the question about why somebody was here or there was because it's about an investigation that we can't tell you about. So the confidentiality factor, I think you're forgetting. Is this mic on? Can you guys hear me? Okay. So our job is the same as yours job. It takes 5 of you to consider an issue. On a committee, it's best if we have 5. 2 people of the group that we have, we're all really bright and smart and intelligent and can do the job, but some of us have other things to do. So that you need a committee of 5 so that 3 can get there. Sometimes 5 are there, sometimes 2 are there. We can't do much with 2 people on anything. An interview, when we interview somebody, for example, in our mandated review of the jail, if we interview an inmate that has an issue, 2 people listening to that is not the perspective that we need. 5 is better because 5 people discussing an issue, just like yourselves, makes sense. So that speaks to the ordinance in the big picture. For this year, the $12,000 that we needed was based on information that we know that we needed throughout the rest of the year. In discussion with the foreperson, and our fearless leader foreperson is a great manager. So was our financial manager before that. The notion that we were mismanaging money that we always said we didn't have. We never mismanaged, we weren't irresponsible. There was no runaway budget that we didn't pay attention to. And we're not over there fooling around and I'm setting up meetings at the coffee shop just so we can get paid. All of those investigations are really important, and they're important to you. And I don't think that that's understood. So if I have one thing that I want to make clear is that the mindset of the Board of Supervisors to recognize the grand jury as an asset to you and to work with you and for you in coming up with areas, because we follow the money. When we do an investigation, following the money is usually the issue. And we can find and locate where there's inefficiencies. I mean, you could even submit, I think, areas for us to look at, and we can help you. The money that we were talking about in our investigation is 10-fold, 100-fold in some cases, of the $9,000 that we need to finish the year. If you let us do our job and let us finish up for the year, I think you'll be happy with what you see. Unfortunately, every dime that we spent this year will be wasted because we can't roll it over to next year. So please consider us as an asset to you instead of in controversy. And nickel and diming us on our investigations is not really the way to go. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Clerk, do we have any other cards?
There's one more.
Okay, I'll take comments from the public.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rohit Sharma. Allow me to be the first today to thank past, present, and future members of the grand jury. Your dedication, passion, and commitment to serve our community as you were sworn to do is commendable. Taking time from work, family, and other obligations to conduct interviews, attend tours, and participate in committee meetings, which often last 3 hours, deserves the proper recognition. I would also like to thank Supervisor De La Cruz and Madam Chair Barrios for heading up an ad hoc committee to look at our budget further and their willingness to work with us. I understand you had a productive meeting with our foreperson, Mr. Martin, and perhaps we can come to a meeting of the minds. Your comments at the last Board of Supervisor meeting were heard loud and clear. The grand jury, like any other department, must perform within our means. Losses have been incurred in all departments, and no special treatment should be extended to any one department. Your arguments are valid. However, your comments regarding the grand jury being irresponsible, wasteful, and blowing through our budget is without merit or thought. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there are meetings with department heads to discuss and negotiate their budgetary needs. The grand jury has never been afforded that opportunity. As early as August 2014, we met with your administration to discuss just that. But to no avail, and now we stand here today. I'm aware that you make difficult decisions every day. I couldn't do it, and I do not envy you. But this is not one of them. The administration of the Superior Court and the presiding judge, to my knowledge, has faced extreme challenges in impaneling a civil grand jury of 19 members. Whether you choose to vote your amended ordinance now or in the future, you will make their task all the more difficult. And let's think about the quality and number of investigations. They will suffer. That, Madam Chair and gentlemen of the board, is common sense. Thank you.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When you, back in August, because I know you mentioned, and so did your foreman, about requesting monies in August, that is a month after we have just passed our budget.
Right.
And was there any effort prior to that, during the budget process, to come in and, did you have a representative that participated, because you certainly are part of the budget process if you wish to be, to discuss? I don't recall that there was anybody.
I don't believe we had representation at the
Yeah,
time,
and
no.
see, by August, we have already approved our 14-15 budget, and really, that's kind of late to actually be asking for any augmentation. The other thing that I want to ask is, in August, do you already know how many cases you're going to be investigating?
No, I believe in August, we realized how many members we had, right? And what we initially do, each committee will discuss amongst themselves what they want to investigate. We'll present it to the panel, right? And then we'll vote. We'll say, this is a good idea, this is worth looking into, this is not worth looking into, right? We also can't anticipate the complaints we receive, right? I think in August, we realized, the treasurer, the foreperson, and the jury realized that with what we have and what we aim to accomplish, it's not going to meet, it's not going to match. And that's why we came to the administration and said, listen, we might have a problem with our budget, you know? This is what we're attempting to do, and we don't see we can do it with this money. Well, the county administrator said that, you know what, we'll figure it out, don't worry. We'll figure it out. Nothing was figured out. And now we're getting blamed for not having any input.
Yeah. No, it's just that it's kind of late in August to come
I
in and
understand
ask for augmentation for a year that is just barely beginning. Supervisor Munzer. In a minute. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you. I just have a quick question. Does your year run calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal.
So, okay, so you're July 1, or
July 1 to June 30th.
June 30th.
Correct.
So the previous board would have to be looking out for the next year's board.
Correct.
And come to us well before June and start talking budget.
Correct.
But you have members that carry over from one year to the next, don't you?
We could only, as an individual juror, we can only serve a maximum of 2 years consecutively. Right. So our previous treasurer termed out last year.
And I think that is the issue, is that you have a revolving door and revolving folks, that there's no institutional memory necessarily moving forward with a clear, understanding of what that budget should be and how the committees are set up. And you're valued. There is no doubt that this Board of Supervisors and those before us have really benefited from your input and from the recommendations, and we've actually acted on them. So there's no doubt, but this is not about that. This is really about budget. And if you had said that you wanted to do 100 cases, and that's what you needed, that's irresponsible, because you have to limit yourself. You have to be able, at that time, knowing what you had, is limit yourself as to what you can do realistically with the dollars you have been, budgeted. So it's never been an issue with other grand juries, and that's difficult for us to be able to accept that all of a sudden it becomes an issue for this jury.
I understand that.
So thank you for your comments, but you are valued, and this is about budget. And every department starts out at the beginning of the year with things they know they have to do and things they know they have to accomplish, but they're not in here asking us very minimally, adding twice as much to their budget to complete the work they have to do. That is the challenge that we are met with.
I understand that. But also keep in mind that when you set your budget, you should be setting it for 19 members, and we are down to 13. So the budget should have been set for 19, and it wasn't even sufficient for the 16 that we started out with.
Any other comments from the board? Okay. Any other comments you need to come up to the podium, please? Yeah, Marty, you will be next.
I want to answer two things. First of all, regarding your budget on it. The reason that we were not given the budget, okay? When we were empowered, then I was appointed as foreperson. I looked up on the website what the budget was. I thought the budget was $25,321, because I didn't know what A-87 was until we went ahead and made an appointment. The first appointment, we would have made an appointment the following day with the CAO. The first appointment we got was on the 6th of August. At that time, we expressed to him a budget at 25. That's when we found out that $5,821 was being paid into administration for administrative costs. That's when we found out the budget was $19,500. So we have had no input into it. And that is why I made the comment to Supervisor De La Cruz that I had the proposed budget for 15, 16, because I sat down and worked it up, what I believed would be a legitimate budget. And I understand not accepting it at that time. I've since sent that budget on to Ray, and I don't know if you've got it yet, but it was mailed over the weekend to him as to what the proposed budget was and to be a part of the budget session for the next year's grand jury, even though I won't be on it.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Marty?
Marty Bishop from Hollister. I think it's important to understand that there is essentially 3 expense buckets for the grand jury, and I was on the grand jury. I'm doing this from memory, and they'll correct me if I make a mistake. Please feel free to do so. There are certain items they have to look at every year by law. That includes the jail, the juvenile justice facility, so on and so forth. And so you can put a cage around that. Okay, I have to look at this. We know that takes 2 days. This is what it typically provided we don't find a big problem. This is typically what it's going to cost. And you can budget that because it's a known item. The second item is there are things that they're going to select to look at as a general selection just to basically keep the system honest, let's call it that for lack of a better term. And that cannot be unlimited. You can't look at 5 million items, okay? There's always some limit to that. So there's some budgeting that can go on there. You can say, okay, you can look at 4 big items or 8 small items, and it's generally impossible to budget the complaints from the residents and the citizens, because you don't know if you're going to get 2 or 200, and you don't know if they're going to be big or small, and you don't know if they're going to be valid or invalid. So really, the way the grand jury should work, in my opinion, is that the initial budget should cover the stuff that you have to do by law, and some package of other things, and say, here's so many $1,000s to look at other things, whatever that package is. And then at some time, and I hate to say this, into the process, the grand jury foreman needs to come before the board and say, we're doing our law thing, and unfortunately, we found something that's going to take a lot more time than we thought. We're doing our other thing, and that's fitting okay. And then we had kind of the number of complaints we thought we were going to have, or we have bigger fish to fry. And if that's true, you have bigger fish to fry, you need to augment their budget if that's the case. And I'll tell you why. The way I see it is, in the long run, it saves you a lot of money. It's a safety valve, like the safety valve on your water heater. It's better, you're better off having whatever they spend, get the thing investigated, get out of the way, than to have it blow up in your face a year later, because the ultimate cost will be much worse. So it's unfortunate that this is one of these cases where you just can't, it's very hard to define how much they're going to need. But 2 of the 3 areas can be well defined in advance. They should be. The third one, I believe they should come back at some point in time. Just a suggestion.
Mr. Munzer, Supervisor
Yes.
Munzer. you have
I
a
don't know
question?
if this is, Marty, if you want to answer this, or if Mr. Martin wants to answer this. But when the grand jury gets a citizen complaint, you get 2 complaints in a year, those are easily handled. If you get the 100 complaints, do you have to handle all of the complaints, or do you pick and choose which complaints you're going to look at?
You have to come up to the podium, please. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. I won't tell you what the situation is, but I'll give you an overview. We have a carryover from last year, generated by a complaint.
This is a citizen's complaint.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Was looked at last year, did not have enough time to go ahead and do it, complete it. Was passed on to this year. Documents received were acceptable. We had to revisit the entire investigation. It is almost at the point of completion. It will be in this year's report. A lot of time, an awful lot of time, was spent on that, going back over what had been done before and going further with the investigation. More time than we had actually looked at or even thought we'd have to end up doing this year. So yeah, it does happen that citizen complaints, when they do come in, some can be looked at, and if there's an ongoing action taking place within the court or within the district attorney's office, then we step away from that because it's already in litigation of some sort. We will then many times communicate with the district attorney and will be advised accordingly.
Thank you for that information, but it's not really answering my question.
Okay.
My question was, do you have to investigate every single citizen complaint, regardless of how many there are?
No.
Or if you have multiple ones, you can pick and choose which ones you'll investigate? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Supervisor Botello, did you have another question?
No, I don't. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, well, thank you so much.
you.
If there are no other comments from the public, I'm going to bring it, if you could give your name to the clerk of the board.
I look at this?
Yes.
I don't get my email.
It's kind of small.
Debbie Thole?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I really didn't expect to say anything today. I'm a first-year member on the grand jury. I don't understand how any of you can vote on anything when it's very apparent to me that you don't really understand how the grand jury works. I didn't understand it either. I did not know the hundreds of hours that I would be putting in to all of this. The money is not the issue. When I decided to volunteer for this, I didn't even know we got paid. Also, it is not voluntary to be on the grand jury, because if we didn't have enough grand jury members, the judge would appoint people. So it is not necessarily voluntary. If we all quit tomorrow, the judge would have to appoint people. We have to have a grand jury. I'm very insulted by some of the comments about us mismanaging our money. I have nothing to do with that. Like I said, I didn't even know that we got paid. $15 a meeting for the hundreds of hours that we put in on our own time. I spend a lot of time at home on my computer and looking up information. I challenge you to do the same. If you don't understand how the grand jury runs or how we're spending our money, that's your job to find that out. We're here to help the citizens of this county. All of you, being Board of Supervisors, should know how the grand jury runs, what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments before I bring it back to the board? Okay, bring it back to the board for additional, Supervisor Rivas?
Right, yeah, I want to thank all the speakers for providing us with their opinions, and if people have misinterpreted the comments that we've made of not understanding the work of the grand jury, then you're wrong. Because I think all five of us absolutely understand the importance of grand juries, not only in San Diego County, but here throughout our state. Grand juries in California have a long history, a long tradition, and the work you guys do is vital, is extremely important to making our county more productive, more efficient, and more transparent. We absolutely value what the grand jury does, and it's unfortunate that this has reached a boiling point. A lot of matters in San Diego County eventually reach a boiling point, whether it's a grand jury, whether it's a solar farm, whether it's fracking. Everything seems to escalate to extraordinary proportions in this county. But I do want to say, teach a state and local government class. I'll begin to teach it at Gavilan College, and I teach an intro to American government. And the one thing that the students that I teach, they don't care about government. They have a lack of trust in government. They have a lack of interest in government. They say government's not transparent. Well, what the grand jury is here is to here to bring our government closer to its citizens. Because you guys, in the work you do, you provide, you open up our county to local residents that don't have the time to understand the work that we do sometimes and the decisions we make. And certainly the investigations you do are extremely important because in the end, all 5 of us are here to hopefully improve this county and make it a better place next year and, in the future. And a lot of that has to do with the reports and the investigations you guys do because part of the grand jury's, job is to make sure that we are doing the job by law, but we're being as efficient and as effective as we can be. And we certainly value everything you guys do. We absolutely understand the importance of the grand jury. Unfortunately, it has reached a boiling point because of the budget. We are hamstringed because of our budget. And certainly when we haven't had these budget problems in the past and all of a sudden they're here now, we have to fix the problem. And as our chairwoman said, unfortunately, when you look at the budget of the grand jury, it lacks structure, so we've got to work together to try to fix that. So I apologize if, I have said some comments that have made people angry, but, I'm a supervisor, and unfortunately, that's what we have to do sometimes. So, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
Well, go ahead, Jerry.
Supervisor Botello first, and then Supervisor Munzer.
Okay. I want to echo Supervisor Rivas. I agreed with everything he said. I've been here for 2.5 terms, and I've gone before the grand jury, I think, just about every year, except this year. But anyhow, I do appreciate, your work, and it's absolutely vital. We have a number of commissions that citizens contribute their time to work on, and they're all important in one way or another. And what we're talking about is a budgetary issue and how we're going to deal with it from the board on this side of the dais. And we're unfortunately hear this a lot with every department during the budget process and throughout the whole year. It's absolutely impossible that we give you $9,000. We just can't do it. And the fact of the matter is if we just opened up the checkbook, no matter how big or how small the budget is throughout any department in the county, we would have been folding the doors up a long time ago. The sheriff has a tremendous amount of leeway with his budget. And the spirit that we've had with our past sheriff and our current sheriff has been, let's work together and make sure the whole county is able to function. It's the same thing with the district attorney. They have tremendous powers, and they could just blow past, but we've all have worked together. This board wants to work with the grand jury. I think the ad hoc committee and that meeting it is real good to understand both sides of the perspective, and we need to continue to strive for that. I'm still concerned, as the young lady pointed out on the last minute of the public comment, it's our job to see how it's ran. And so now we have an ordinance before us to consider on dictating how you will run, and that is to pay the stipend on a general meeting of the grand jury and not these special meetings that really nobody has any accountability for. And that's one of the functions of the grand jury, is to find where we're not efficient and we're not accountable to, the citizens and taxpayers of our county. And so, for the time being, I'm leaning towards supporting this ordinance as developing a framework how we're go forward. And, especially in light that I didn't hear anything that the leadership or ideas coming from the grand jury, how we're going to stay within the parameters of the approved budget. And so that's where I'm at, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ray, if we enact this ordinance today, at budget time, we can augment this ordinance per se, correct? I mean, we're not going to lock us up into anything?
Yeah, and actually, the ordinance doesn't take effect till the beginning of the new fiscal year. So,
Correct, but it's not going to lock us into...
We can come back to
It'll
your
give
board
us-
and
it'll
we'd
give
have to
us
go
a-
through the process, like we did right now, and then, so it would have to be the same thing, but we could make a change later.
And then the other comment I have is a couple comments. One of which I actually considered a few years back in looking into volunteering for the grand jury. And I talked with one of the judges at the time, and when I was told how much time was required of the grand jury members, I didn't feel I had the time to devote to it, and I never pursued it. So I do understand the amount of time you are required to put in for this position, and you are appreciated and respected for it. The other issue I remember is one of our previous sheriff, and it's kind of the same situation. We hold the purse strings of the sheriff and his department, but we can't tell him what to do. And I remember this newly elected sheriff unfortunately blew through his budget in the first 6 months of his first year. And he was before this board. I don't believe any of us were on it at the time. And he was raked over the coals for blowing through his budget in 6 months. That board had the money to give him what he needed, but he never did that again. So I'm hoping that we can resolve the issue today, and I hope we never have this discussion again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Supervisor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really do appreciate the effort and the work you guys are doing. We do understand how the grand jury functions. As the Board of Supervisors, one of our main functions is the budget. And from me, as one individual, I really would like to see an explanation, such as Supervisor Batella mentioned, about what control policies will be in place, and we didn't hear any. That's something that I'm willing to move forward, because during the budget process, there will be an opportunity to bring that back for discussion. And the resolution also, I have the same concern as Supervisor Munzer, so I'm okay with that. I will support the resolution as it is today, and will support the $5,500 allocation. And we do value your service. Don't take me wrong. Regardless of the discussions that have gone both ways. In fact, I have a note here that one of your fellow, said about brightest bunch of people and spoon-fed, and I'm actually going to keep it because that's a very well-written sentence, and I really do appreciate that one. Thank you very much. Just to put some humor into the discussion, a lot of what the supervisor said, it's true, and I support their concept, and I will support the $5,500, Madam.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I believe I'm going to support it as well, because I know there was a misunderstanding at the very beginning that they were not aware that there were some costs to the county. And what was that number, Ray? Do you have that in front of you by any chance?
Which number was that?
The cost plan, the
Oh, the 87, yeah, I think I have it here.
If you happen to have it, so what this will, in fact,
Yeah, it's actually, Yeah, it's actually $5,821.
Yeah, so what this will do is pretty much give back that cost plan amount that the grand jury was not expecting at the time, but really moving forward, you need to have somebody that will understand the budget, will know ahead of time what that is, and plan with what is budgeted by this board. So I will support it as well. Thank you. And thank you, grand jury. You are appreciated. You do fabulous work, and we know that you spend countless hours that you will never, ever get paid for. So thank you for your work for the community, and we value it. So, okay. Yes.
If I could interject, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just have a quick question for Ray. If we approve this 5,500, is the whole 5,500 going to be going to the grand jury, or will there be some cost sharing?
No, that's just an increase of their budget for their operations, so that's what it is. The cost plan, we're going to keep it the same. The cost plan, mainly, most of those charges are for counsel. Barbara Thompson is their lead counsel, so there has to be some charges for that, so. Yeah, and it trails by 2 years as well, so her work this year won't be seen till 2 years from now. So 2 years ago, from the work that was done prior, at a prior grand jury, those are the numbers. We get
Okay,
so it's
so-
a 2-year trailer, but
2-year
we're not changing that. The budget augmentation is $5,500 to increase their budget for this year,
Okay,
fiscal
so
year
this-
14-15.
So it will make them basically whole of the original $25,000 budget.
Well, you can look at it that way, but
I know. Well, I'm trying to look at rationalize why we're doing
No,
it.
that's what, I guess, where I'm going is I would like to make them whole of the original $25,000 amount. To do that, do we need to up this a little bit?
well, to do that, then you would have to do $5,821. That would make them whole to the value that the foreman brought up, which was, I have here, $25,321 on their adopted budget. So that's the
This
number that
almost-
he
almost makes them whole.
That he, yeah,
So we're
thought
not
that was
having
their
to pull
actual
more
value.
money. We're not pulling more money out of this 5,000
Yeah,
for administration.
and that's the wishes of the board.
Okay,
That's
that's
the
what
wishes
I
of the
want.
board, of
Okay,
whatever they
thank
want to do. Yeah.
All right. Barbara.
Just for the record, I'd like to read the full title of the ordinance. It's an ordinance of the County of San Benito amending Article 1 in general of Chapter 3.01, Administration Generally of Title 3 of the San Benito County Code to specify compensation paid to grand jurors in San Benito County. So that's taken care of.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, we have a special meeting that is to start at 11 o'clock, so I will entertain a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion and read the title of the ordinance or the record, an ordinance of San Benito County amending Article 1 in general of Chapter 3.01, Administrative Generally of Title 3 of the San Benito County Code to specify compensation paid to grand jurors in San Benito County, and make the motion to accept introduction and waive further reading of the ordinance and be continued to March 17, 2015 to adoption, and approve a budget augmentation transfer from general fund contingency of $5,500 by the Board of Supervisors to grand jury's budget 14-15.
Okay, there's a motion
Second, Madam Chair.
and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, what we will do at this time, since it's 11 o'clock, is we will continue our regular meeting after the special meeting. So I will entertain a motion to continue the regular meeting of today into the special meeting.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will now ask, well, we'll wait about 1 minute. It's not quite 11. And so we want to take a very, very quick break or wait until, okay. We'll wait 1 minute, just make sure that anybody wants to join can be here. We should. We always start on this. It does. Oh, no, I think we need to, yeah. We may not even break for lunch and just continue our meeting, so we really don't know what time, because we haven't set that. We don't know how long this closed session is gonna start. We'll come back, reconvene, and then we'll make a decision at that time.
Hey, Marvin.
Yeah, let me turn this on.
We give you $5,600. We made everybody happy.
Sorry, I didn't make work for you. I just think that's the way it is. Because you have to make some assumptions.
A letter for me? State. The letter saying that.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and open our special meeting. Supervisor Munzer? Okay.
Nice chair, Robert.
We're going to go ahead and open our special meeting agenda for March the 3rd. And we're going to jump back and forth so that people that are here for the regular agenda, we will come back to the regular agenda as soon as we introduce the closed session item. We'll come back to the regular agenda, continue our meeting, finish up, and then we will go into closed session for the special meeting, and then after go into closed session, or vice versa, for our regular meeting. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You lead the charge.
You lead it. We will have a little break, so.
Basically, right after the pledge.
Right. So Supervisor Munzer, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance for our special meeting.
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. If I could have a motion to acknowledge certificate of posting.
So move. Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And council, if you could please present the closed session item.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of Supervisors will adjourn into closed session to discuss agenda item number 1 on today's special meeting agenda of March 3rd, 2015. Agenda item number 1 is to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to subdivisions A and D1 of section 54956.9. The name of the case is Citadel Exploration, Inc. versus the County of San Benito et al. That case was filed in the California Superior Court for the County of San Benito under case number CU 15-00028.
Okay. And council, is there any reason or anybody here that we would need to go into closed session immediately, or may we continue the closed session after we resume the regular session?
You might want to ask if anyone in the audience wants to address the board before the closed session of the special meeting.
Okay, very good. Anybody from the audience that would like to comment on the closed session item of our special meeting agenda? Okay, then if I will make a recommendation from the board that we continue this meeting and go back to our regular meeting so we can address the items that are still left. Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And what we'll do after this item, we will take a short break and then come back to present the closed session items.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Go
So
ahead.
we're on item number 9, regular agenda, last of the regular agenda. This is coming out of our planning department. We have our interim planning director here, Byron Turner, as well as county council to give the board an update of where we're at with the general plan and to discuss next steps. Byron?
Yeah, so when we last met, the outside counsel was reviewing the document. They have delivered on their promise as far as the time frame. We do have them, the document back and the comments back. We're reviewing those comments now. and along with the consultant and staff. And I expect to be back here in 2 weeks to give you a, once we understand what the comments are and what we need to do about them, if anything, then we'll come back in 2 weeks and give you a timeline for completion of the process.
Okay, in those 2 weeks, Byron, we should be able to then get back on track as far as putting our draft out.
Yes.
Okay.
We hope so, yes.
That's the plan.
We don't have the time, we haven't had the time to review the comments yet, but it's my understanding that we should be able to get back on track.
Yeah, but the most important thing from this information is that the peer review did not show anything extreme, that maybe some tweaking here and there and maybe the wording, but nothing that is
Nothing that will delay and require further expenditure of time and money to engage in additional legal review. So very good news, and I'd like to thank and acknowledge Nadia Costas and her associate Matt Henderson. They were given 30 days to review a 400-page document, and I told them that the board's expectations was that it would be done by March 2nd. They accomplished that. It was done on time. They did as thorough a job of reviewing it as was possible given the 30 days and the budget that was extended to them. Those comments, as Byron says, have been forwarded now to EMC. EMC is beginning the 2-week process of incorporating those incorporating those comments into the documents so that the schedule that Michael Groves passed out at last meeting or the meeting before can be adhered to. So the EIR, the process of disseminating the EIR to the public should go forward as scheduled. And again, I'm very pleased to inform the board that the legal review was conducted in time and on budget.
Okay, very good news. Supervisor Patello?
Okay, so I heard from two esteemed directors or staff that we're on target. We are basically in the 45-day public review period.
So if you look at the chart that Michael Groves handed out, there's a little
a
little small square there at the beginning of March, and that is to reflect the 2-week period that will take EMC approximately to take the legal comments by Nadia and incorporate them into the document, okay?
Oh, okay.
And so by March, my expectation is that by the next meeting, March 17th, Michael Groves should be here telling you the document is ready to go out for the 45-day review.
And that still puts us, in that.
That's in accordance with the schedule that you have in your hands.
Yeah.
And we can't cheat that a week or so?
Well, as Byron said, we don't know right at the moment how difficult or lengthy the process is to incorporate the legal comments into the draft EIR. We're actually going to have a meeting by the end of this week to discuss that. So it is possible that the comments may be worked into the EIR in a time period shorter than 2 weeks. But for today's purposes, because I don't know, I would say we have 2 weeks to do that at the outset. If we can do it sooner, we will.
Because sooner it gets out to public review, the better, of course, and and then we'll be on track for the Planning Commission meeting in April, I guess, is another important dot.
Would certainly hope so, but it also depends on what kind of comments we get back as a result of the public circulation.
Very good. Thank you, Byron. Any questions of Byron or comments? All right, that is, I believe, just a report and an update. Thank you so much. And I think what we'll do then is, Council, if you could just report on the closed session items, I can ask for public comment, and then we can take a break.
Okay, thank you. Yes, on our regular agenda for March 3rd, the board will consider in closed session agenda items number 10, 11, and 12 on the regular session agenda. Agenda item number 10 is to consider the county employee appointment of the agricultural commissioner / sealer of weights and measures. The authority to meet in closed session can be found in California Government Code 54957. In regards to item number 11, the board will meet to consider the county employee appointment of the assistant county administrative officer. The authority to meet there can be found in California Government Code 54957. And finally, in regards to agenda item number 12, the board will meet in closed session to confer with its real property negotiators. Property is located at 5381 Fairview Road, APN 017-130-004, located in Hollister, California. The agency negotiators are Joe Horwittle, Interim Public Works Director, Armand Nazimi, Assistant Public Works Director, James Riding Sword, Director of Health and Human Services, Ray Espinoza, CAO, Matthew Granger, County Counsel, Barbara Thompson, Assistant County Counsel, Shirley Murphy, Deputy County Counsel, Sarah Fontanos, Management Analyst. Negotiating parties are Larry Drury on behalf of Go Kids. Under negotiation, the price and terms of payment for property owned by the county, and the authority to meet can be found in California Government Code Section 54956.8. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. Any comments from the public regarding this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 2 speakers for item number 12.
Okay, first one.
Larry Drury.
Thank you very much. As you know, this has been a very emotional issue for Go Kids. We've operated that facility for over 33 years. I think as we've worked through the process, I've had numerous discussions with Mr. Espinoza, and I appreciate so much his time and understanding and passionate about this issue for us as well. I wanted to notify you, I told Ray this last week, that we were looking at an alternate site to move our child care center after 33 years. My board last Monday night, a week ago, decided to convert our office behind the HHS back to a child care center and move our site back there. The problem we run into is that after so many years, we have 7, 8, 9 storage units. I need to put a portable unit, a relocatable unit on that existing property. The time to do that, I don't know how long it's going to take to be able to do that. I've just, after that many years, hopefully give us a little bit of time to be able to accomplish that fact so that there's no disruption in the child care services. That is my ultimate goal, and I know that has been raised as well. You know, so we move in a seamless process. One facility is ready to be moved over. So I just wanted to be a little bit more specific, Ray, than what we talked about. This is not a buying time. It's, I have a facility. I've got we own the property, so we know that we can do this. To convert it back is a very simple process. So I wanted to at least give you the more information as you did your closed session.
Thank you very much for that.
Marty Richmond.
Hi, Marty Richmond again from Hollister. I have no axe to grind in either direction on this issue, and I haven't spoken on it before, but I did, when I did look, trying to do my research, one of the things I looked for, and I had to go to some length to find, was a federal Form 990. I don't know if you're all familiar with that. This is what the nonprofits and charities file. I would like to see you adopt a general rule that for nonprofits and charities that the county works with, whether or not it's making a contribution or support, or like the folks that were in here today from the aged, group and whatever. I would like to see them file a 990, their copy of 990 with you, that they file with the federal government, and that you put it on the website. Those are available to the public, but they are basically a pain in the butt to find if you have to go searching for them individually, because some sites want you to pay for them. Everybody's selling federal information for all they can get. Other sites don't, and then you got to track down their parent site, whoever it is, and then find their 990 there, or you have to find some third party like Charity Navigator who would send you a copy, that you can supply a copy. I think it would be good public service that we had a policy for when we deal with nonprofits and charities, that we get a copy of that 990, put it on file. It'll be here for you to look at when you negotiate with them over things. And also the public could pick it up off our website, and then they can look at those and make their own decision about who they think is a better provider, because it has information about what the executives make, how much money is spent on fundraising versus used for the program. It has information about where their money comes from. In this particular case, it's educational grants, mostly, almost exclusively from the state, I believe. So You know, I'm not here to grind any axe on anybody, but I just like, for transparency's sake, I know that would be a big change and more work for everybody, but I think it's a good thing to do since we do contribute and help out and they help us out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marty. Any other comments from the public? So what we'll do is we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go into closed session of our regular agenda items, come back, report out, and then continue our special meeting closed session. Thank you. I sat too long.